that in a second. Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Eating at a Meeting. I am your host, Tracy Stuckrath, and I am excited to bring to you this guy over here, Chef William Pfeiffer. And we're going to talk about beekeeping and biodiversity and how he incorporates that into the sustainability visions at the IBM Conference Center, or let's see, the Gersten Learning Center for IBM up in New York City. So welcome, Chef. How are you?
I'm great. I'm very excited to be here. We had met each other, 2 years ago? Was it originally?
Was it yes, it was a year ago, April. Yes.
Yeah. And it's great to really finally connect with you on such an important, discussion and reconnect. So I'm excited to be here.
Well, thank you. Yeah. And for everybody to know, we met through IAC. And Chef was competing in the IAC Copper Skillet competition to go to the global, you were North America competition, right?
Yes.
Yep. And then we got to spend the day together when we toured a pig farm and a kombucha store and chocolate and coffee, right? No, what did we have? I think those are the only two things we did.
Yeah. The farm and the kombucha.
Yeah. So that was fun. But then again, I was reintroduced to you last month, actually it's 2 months now, by TJ, who's the general manager at the IBM, at the Gersten Learning Center for Flik Hospitality. And he was pitching you or what you do in the IAC innovation competition. And so I'm like, TJ, I have got to talk to him. So share with us, this says beekeeping and biodiversity. So you were in this innovation competition showcasing what you're doing with your new beekeeping skill set. And actually now you've got some chickens. So let's talk about that. And first, well, actually, no, I don't want to do that first. I'm going to talk about this first. Tell us what you do for Flik Hospitality as well as your own catering company first.
Perfect. So I started with Flik in 2017 when and I landed at the Gersten Center for Learning, which is in Armonk. Started out as a sous chef and worked my way up to executive chef here on property. And I do a little bit of traveling here and there to help out and support other units, across the country. But primarily right now, my role is executive chef at the Learning Center. And then I also started my own business during COVID, which was online cooking classes, in-house private catering, and all of the above that encompass, in-house hospitality.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
And that's important because COVID, there were not very many meetings happening at all. Which we all are well aware of. So now jump into the beekeeping, and I'm looking at your background, and there's a whole bunch of, look at that. That's so cool. So tell us what those are.
So just to explain this to you, and I put this behind because this pretty much embodies what we do here. So we've had 2 successful honey harvests on property. And during these events, we invite prospective clients, we invite current clients, friends, family, and we do a honey harvest where we pair the honey that's made on property with drinks, mocktails, cocktails, reception food, desserts. And not only is it paired with food, but we do a information guide. So guests rotate between different, I'll pop back in here. So guests rotate between different stations, and we host it on property, and it's in the kitchen, it's in the fireplace lobby, and it's in a couple different rooms. We split the teams up into groups, and for about half an hour, they'll learn about the life cycle of a honeybee. They'll also get to see live honeybees, which I bring into the building in a showcase. And and they get to enjoy the fruits of the honeybee's labors, where we pair that with desserts and we pair that with cocktails that the food and beverage team does. It's a phenomenal event. So that's really
very cool.
Yeah, really cool.
Now is the center and all of your clients are all IBM employees? Is that correct?
So
No, or
it used to be more IBM. That was our business. And we are now open. We have clients all over that are external business that we book.
okay.
So if you have a company that needs learning space and needs a conference center, we're here. And
Oh,
we
okay.
hence we've had clients, Tito's. We recently just did an interactive cooking dinner for not Henkel's, Wusthof, the knife company. We did a cooking demo for
Uh-huh.
them. So we have clients all over.
Okay. All right. Great. Well, that's very cool.
Yeah.
Now, let's jump back to your whole honey thing. How did you come about becoming a honeybee expert? And
So
is that what your title is?
I'm not an expert. I'm not an expert in anything I do, but practice makes perfect, and that is $1 million question. So because everybody wants to know how it started, and just like any chef, we strive for perfection, right? And we look for
Mhm.
the next innovative, accomplishment, and we look to always, better ourselves, right? So I was trying to find out how I could incorporate local honey into our cheese boards, our charcuterie, our cocktail receptions. So I was doing a little research, and I came across a beekeeper that was in Armonk here, 3 miles from our property. And I
Oh,
reached
wow.
out. Yeah, oh yeah, he was super local. His name is Alan. I still text him pictures, every month because he was my first mentor. So I reached out to him and I asked him if we could get some honey from him. And I explained to him who I was. I'm a local chef and I want to highlight an amazing hyper local product. Now, he was a hobbyist, so he wasn't really too keen on selling all of his honey because he had just enough for his family. So he was like, I'll give you a couple samples. And he goes, if you want to come over and really learn about the honeybees and their cycle and their life cycle, I'd be more than willing to show you. And that's where it started. So my first day I went over there, he put me in a suit and he brings me over to the beehives and we, pop open the hive and we do an inspection. That's what you do. You do hive inspections as a beekeeper where you're looking for the quality and the health of the hive. You're looking for a healthy queen. You're looking for eggs, larvae, pollen, and nectar. So these are all things you look for to make sure the hive is healthy. After that day, I was hooked. I really was. I was like, this is not only so cool, but it's so fascinating to learn how much work goes into producing this amount of honey. And my appreciation
Wow.
of honeybees really flourished. I was like, wow, like we really need to be more mindful of not only how much food we're putting out, but how much work it takes to produce honey, right? And
Right.
how important bees are to humans, right? Because how much they pollinate all of our fruits and all the food that we
Right.
consume. So fast forward now, I started going to his house every week for about 6 months. In between lunch and
Okay.
dinner, I went
Mhm.
as kind of like an apprentice, and he took me on, and I learned from that year on with him, and it was an amazing experience. And then he ended up moving, so he donated his beehives to us, and that was the
Oh,
start.
wow.
Yeah, yeah, that was the start of our first apiary here on property. Was the hives that were
Okay.
donated here. And from there, I kept taking classes and I kept taking more, the more you learn, the better. So I started taking classes at Stone Barns and Blue Hill Stone Barns, which is, it's the Center for Agriculture here in Westchester.
Right.
And
Mhm.
really, that's when I started to grasp the whole concept. And we tripled our honeybee apiary here on property now.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. So that's how it started. In short.
So how much honey do you produce then, or do your honeybees produce?
So last year, off of 3 hives, we yielded roughly around 350 pounds of honey last year.
Wow.
Yeah. And
That feeds a lot. That
yeah,
goes a
oh
long
yeah,
way.
we started getting creative. We reached out to our marketing team from Flik, and Jenna came up with an amazing label to start us off with. So we started jarring them up and we started using them in the rooms for amenities. So when we would have guests,
Cool.
we tied up, we jarred them up, and we put them in the room for our guests. So it became an awesome touch. So
Nice. Very
yeah,
cool.
yeah.
Uh, and so you've done 2 full seasons with them now, or just the one?
This is going to be my third. Yeah.
Oh, your third. Okay. All
Yeah.
right.
This is.
And you're still producing that much, or you?
Yeah, we're on track to even produce more than that. So
Wow.
yeah,
Okay.
right now I have 10. We have 10, and I was up in the yard yesterday actually, and right now I have about 100 pounds already this early in the season. So it's
What
really
and
amazing.
season is when? From when to when?
So spring and fall harvest, you
Okay.
usually have spring and fall honey per se, right? And it's amazing to see the difference. Your spring honey is going to be very light in color and it's going to be more floral. And you're going to get hints
Okay.
of citrus and orange and flowers. And then the fall honey is going to be darker and you're going to have a little more spice.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Somebody just commented, those 3 hives, was 300 pounds a typical or expected yield?
So that's a great question. And every,
Thanks, Lisa.
what was that?
I just said, thanks, Lisa. She asked the question. Yeah.
Yeah, and I can't guarantee that. We're in the middle of the woods here, and there are so many wildflowers, and IBM also invested in putting apiaries, flowers all over the place for us to support the honeybees. So we're in a great location for that. And typically in a good area, you could expect 80 to 90 pounds of honey for a year for one hive. That's estimated,
Okay.
but it's all location.
Right. Well, and now you've got 10 apiaries, so I can't even imagine how much you're gonna.
Yeah,
Um,
it's
oh, and actually here, oh, my friend Nancy just showed me the story about you and your
yes,
honeybees. Yeah,
yeah, that was
there you go. Wow, that's gonna be a lot. And so you're using it as gifts, but honey stays for a long time, right?
the beauty of honey is there was actually an article that came out that they found honey that was like 1,000 years old and
Oh,
it
wow.
doesn't expire, right? So the important thing when you are harvesting honey is you cannot remove the honey from the beehive until they're fully capped over with wax. If you remove the honey before the bees seal it, not enough moisture is extracted from the honey and it can spoil, just like anything else that has
Oh,
moisture in it. So
okay.
the bees actually tell you when it's ready to be harvested
By waxing over.
by waxing over all the honey. And it'll be the whole frame will be fully waxed and sealed, and then you can remove it and harvest it.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then where do they go?
Where does what go?
The honeybees go.
They forage all day. They
Oh,
all
okay.
and so the female life cycle, it takes about 21 days for a worker bee to hatch. It takes 16 days for a queen. And the life cycle is not that long. It's only a couple of weeks. So the bees, they're so loyal to their colony, and that's why it's such an amazing insect and species because till the day that they die, they will be out trying to bring resources back to the colony. They will fall because their wings are going to break because they get old on their way back to the beehive to their last flight.
So they don't live very long at all.
They don't. They don't. So and they do you overwinter them in that box. So the important thing is, which I've been learning each year, is I won't harvest any honey after September. Like August.
Okay.
August is when I will take what we can and leave them because you want to give them September, October, and a little bit into November to stock up nutrients and resources for the winter because they're not foraging, right? We're in New York.
Right.
In Florida, they can fly all year round.
Right.
So
Interesting. Okay, so how have because you're the executive chef at this kitchen, and how have your chefs and your line cooks have they jumped into this with you, and are they as passionate about it as you are?
Some of them, yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
And I've had full support from my whole team. And to be frank, I wouldn't be able to accomplish this if I didn't have an amazing team, right? They allow me the time to spend 2 hours up there, right? If I didn't have this phenomenal team with me. And I do. I train one of my cooks actually. He's actually my assistant because it's juggling everything is all about time management, right? And you can't do everything by yourself. So my team has
Right.
been, they love it. They love it.
Awesome. And how has it helped you influence what you're cooking? I mean, besides adding honey to your dishes, has it helped you influence other ingredients that you've added from local farmers, or just, the general menu concepts?
Yeah, I've always been very specific on designing my menus. That's something I take pride in. I don't fly through them. I put a lot of thought into my menus, and I always am looking at seasonality. I'm always looking at local first. And what it did was it gave me an appreciation for how valuable local ingredients are and how valuable the amount of time it takes for local farm fresh products to actually, to take place and to grow. So it gave me a deeper appreciation for food and how you don't want to waste as minimal as
Right.
possible. Yeah.
Okay, so on that note, I have two questions to ask you. One is that you posted on Instagram that you've just partnered with the local chicken farmer. But
Yeah.
two, in that, let's jump to that second, because and you talk about which way you want to go. But in the innovation presentation, you were also shown taking food scraps and dehydrating them to reduce waste. So let's talk about that first, because I'm like, what were you dehydrating, and what were you using that food scrap for?
Yeah, that's great. This was one of my first projects that really took off, and this was another thing that the team was super excited about. So, as chefs, we're constantly thinking, how are we going to innovate, and then more importantly, how am I going to eliminate food waste, and how can I reutilize all this food instead of it going just to a compost or just going in the trash? Because
Right.
with a little bit of effort, it's amazing what you can do if you really truly want to do something and think about it, right? So, in partnership with Flik, which they wrote with the Waste Not To program that came out, which is really designed, it's an amazing design, it's a great concept, and we started tracking our waste, right? And you're supposed to, you plug in where the waste is going. And I tried to think of creative ways instead of just sending it to the compost, which is great. How can I
Hmm.
use those scraps in my own kitchen? So, a couple of things. We invested in a dehydrator, and it's not a crazy commercial one. It's this big, and we got it for $400, and it's got 8 racks. So all of the carrot peelings, all of the beet tops, all of the tomato tops, I started dehydrating them, right? So low temperature, and it extracts all the moisture out. And then what we were doing with those scraps was I was blending the carrot tops into a powder. And then you can take that carrot powder and you can use it for two things, right? You can use it for a garnish for your carrot cake, or you can turn it into a vinaigrette. So
Wow.
you're essentially maximizing flavor, right? You can throw these powders
Right.
in soups. If you're doing a carrot ginger soup, right? What would be better to throw a quart of than a quart of highly, flavored carrot powder? It just maximizes your
Right.
flavor. So
Right.
we were dehydrating everything at one point. We were dehydrating pineapple rinds. We were dehydrating whatever my cooks could get their hands on. They were like, "Chef," I would walk in and this thing would be loaded with some most worked, but some didn't, which was okay. I just loved the fact that they were trying and they took the
Right.
step. So yeah, it was really, and we still do it. Like, I'll give you a perfect example. A chef that works down the block from me at another conference center called me up yesterday. And he said, "Chef," he goes, "I got a plated dinner." He goes, "I need that beet powder." And I said, "Let me check." Yeah. I was like, let me go check. So I ran into the kitchen, and sure enough, I had 3 quarts of dehydrated beet tops. So I said, I got them. All you got to do is throw them in the blender to powder them. And he's like, I'm coming by now. So he grabbed my beet tops. So it really,
Wow.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, so and when you're taking that powder and so you're just blending it into other dishes and or you're making it into, you said, a vinaigrette, and how did he use it? Do you know?
He put it on top of a salad. So he was doing a beet and arugula salad. And what he did was he garnished the plate with this really vibrant red powder, and put it on top. Yeah.
Wow.
So what we do is, because you're maximizing the shelf life on these scraps, right? And you're extracting
Hmm.
water out, what happens? These scraps can last up to months. So we put them in quart containers and we label them, and then we put them on top of the dehydrator. So you never know when you're going to really use it, right? So
Right.
perfect example. He called me up and was like, "You have anything?" I said, "Yeah, we've got it. Come by." So if I'm doing a carrot cake next week and I have all these carrot peels that are dehydrated, I just put
Hmm.
them I put them in a blender and I pulverize them. And then
Right.
you can also mix that into whipped cream, and now you have a infused whipped cream with carrot powder. So there's a bunch of creative ways you can use that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And does that beet powder, if you put it into the whipped cream, does it turn it red like it turns your fingers red when you're cooking with beet?
It turns it like a pink, a really nice rose pink.
Okay. Okay. Same
Yeah.
thing with the carrot,
Yeah.
with the carrot powders and stuff?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
And, is there anything like the pineapple rinds? What would you do with the pineapple rind? And does that pineapple rind have the flavor of the actual pineapple or
It does. It does. So, in what I came to realize is there's another way you can utilize pineapple rinds. And speaking of kombucha, we there's I can't think of the name right now, but we take the pineapple rinds and we put them in water and we make our own fermented drink out of that. So that's
okay.
another way to utilize that on our breaks.
Okay. Oh, all right. So let's check to the chickens, and then I'm going to go back to your breaks because you were talking about those really fun earlier. So on your Instagram, you posted a picture of a bunch of chickens walking around, and you're like, you've got exciting news. So tell us what you're doing with chickens.
Yeah. So one of our newest projects now is I met this couple that had moved from Brooklyn, and they're about 30 minutes north of our property, and they have a small farm, small chicken farm, and they're kind of just starting out and they're kind of still learning the ropes. And I had his name is Justin. I had him come to our center, and me and him had kind of like an unofficial meeting. I showed him the property, I showed him my beehives, and when he saw the waste not program, he was like, "Wow, this is really fascinating what you do with all your waste." And I said, "Yeah, it is. It's great." I said, I would like to take it a step further." And it dawned on me. I said to him, I said, what do your chickens eat? What do you feed them?" And he was like, "Oh, I feed them a high organic, high quality grain." And I said, "Well, like, do they like scraps?" And he was like, "They eat everything." So I was like, "Wait a second here. I think we could work something out here." So I said, "How would you feel about taking our kitchen scraps every week for your chickens?" And he was super excited about that. And we came to an agreement, twice a week. I have my cooks fill up these white containers, these buckets, and in those buckets, you can have everything up to, carrot peels, tomato tops, everything, but except we don't have any plastics in there. It's all food that would be consumed.
Okay.
And
Hmm.
what else did we have? I think I had like orange rinds and mushrooms.
They eat orange rinds?
What happened?
Chickens eat orange rinds?
No, I'm sorry, cantaloupes. Cantaloupe rinds they were eating.
Okay. Really?
Yeah, he sent me a video, and I was like, he had the bucket in his hand, and he threw it, and they came and they just devoured it. And I sat there, and I was like, wow. I was like, that's really cool. I was like, I feel good. I felt really good that we took the next step to come full circle with our
Right.
waste, right? And it wasn't just sending it to a compost, which is, like I said, it's great. But if you truly know where your waste is going and how it's impacting and what it's doing to the environment, right? And how it's coming back to you. So like he dropped off 15 dozen eggs today. So
Oh, wow.
which now if you really want to talk about green recycling full circle, you got it. Our waste now goes to a chicken farm. They consume our waste, and then we in turn get eggs back for our breakfast and our omelet station. So that's the kind of impact.
Wow. All right. Lisa posted up here, very cool. And that was from the dehydrating thing. But Nancy just posted, how are those scraps condensed for chicken consumption? Are you just, how do you do that?
We right from the cutting board to the bucket, they leave them whole. And I was, they're not grounded. They're put in these containers and we just send them off and they go crazy for them.
Well, and now she just asked another question. What do you do with the eggshells? That was going to be my question to you. Where did your eggshells go after you use those eggs?
So a couple things. Our eggshells will go to the compost, but we also use eggshells to clarify stocks as well. So
what? Okay, tell me. You use the eggshells to clarify a stock. Okay, I didn't know that was done.
So I think one of the most underrated, acts of sustainability and waste not is making your own stocks, right? And I think that there's not many places that still do it because one, it takes extra time to do, right? So we make our own socks and our own sauces in the house. We have the big kettles in the back. So we make our own chicken stock, our own veal stock, demi-glace. But the other thing too is we do our own vegetable stock. And that involves taking the scraps also and putting them, all together and doing that. And you can use eggshells to clarify stocks.
Wow. And what do you mean by clarify?
So if stocks aren't done the right way, it can become cloudy. If you leave a stock on boiling or rumbling, they can become cloudy. So to make them clean and translucent and that really nice, smooth color, you can add eggshells to it and it'll help it clarify.
Oh, is that how they do wine? Is that why they use that for wine to filter wine?
I don't know.
Okay. All right. That's a good question because I know that egg whites or egg something from the eggs is used to clarify or to filter wine. Okay. So all of this. Okay, let's go. I'm going to go back. Your conference center with hotel with sleeping rooms, and then we talked about this before you got on. You're open from Sunday night through Saturday morning or Friday.
Friday afternoon. We finished lunch. Yeah.
Okay. So how many meals a day? How many covers a day are you doing? And you're doing breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Correct. So it all depends on how many groups we have in house that week. But the groups that are here, we will serve the same people. They'll stay with us all week. So we build these relationships. We build a lot of really close relationships with a lot of our clients. And you know how, because they constantly come back to our facility. So yeah, we serve breakfast, lunch, and dinner to them. And then you sprinkle in cocktail receptions and you sprinkle in plated dinners. Like this weekend, we have a walk around dinner on Friday night, which there's no seating. It's interactive chef man stations around a dining room. And then on Saturday, we have a 5-course plated dinner.
Oh, wow. And how many people do you serve?
That one's for 50, but we do plated dinners. We've done one up to like 160 for a plated dinner.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Actually, Lisa brought in another question here about, is it cost savings to make your own stocks?
Yes. I mean, to make your own demi-glace is a big cost saver. And it also, to me, it comes down to a quality thing. It's okay to use chicken bases and, they tend to be very salty. And in my opinion, what we do is we bring in about 200 pounds of chicken and beef bones, and we make our own stock. And what we do is we reduce that down for about 2 days. and we'll get about 30 to 40 quarts of demi-glace. And what we do is we label them, we seal them in quart containers, and we freeze them. And for all of our plated dinners, all of our sauces on everything, our chicken, our meat sauces, it's all homemade, demi-glaces that we just pull from the freezer. So you have that wonderful base. And now what we do is we take that out and we fortify that with some more red wine, and we add a little water because it's so concentrated. It's very gelatinous.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it is a cost saving.
It is. Okay. And I was sitting and chatting with a chef yesterday, and she was talking about the cost. Like when you're figuring out your menus, you're literally saying, okay, I'm going to use 1 ounce of this and I'm going to use 2 ounces of this. So you can really figure out the pricing of that menu item. Is that correct?
It is, to a certain extent, in what facility you're running. And not everyone eats the same, right? So from an a la carte standpoint, to manage your costs is a lot easier than to manage your costs for buffet, right? So I use a metric of 3 ounces. When I do my ordering and my menus, I give a scale of roughly 3 ounces per protein. And that's how, for a buffet standpoint, right? But all groups are not the same, right? You might have 100 people who eat like 150, and you might have 100 people who eat like 50. So you have to give yourself some leeway, especially in buffets and conference centers. So, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I have a question before we go on to talk more about sustainability. How important is it for you to chat with your meeting planners about that? I mean, do you get a lot of meeting planners, and you probably have a lot of repeat business, so you know their history of what they consume over the course of the many times they come to you. But for a new group, are you meeting with them and asking them that kind of questions, or how do you gauge that when you don't know that client?
That's a good question. Yes. And we have, our team on property here, not just from food and beverage, but from front desk to our planners. We're phenomenal, and we're a very close knit team here. And the communication is always open. So I'm up and down from the planner's office to my office. When I see BEOs come out, and when I see a group ahead, I'm up there and I'm saying, okay, this is the group we had from last year, right? We remember they ate X, Y, and Z, but there's a lot of vegans here. We have a lot of gluten-free celiac, right? So the communication line, it has to be strong between your team, because that's where you'll succeed. So yeah, there's a lot that goes into the planning.
That's awesome. And that, I think that's really important, because a lot of times it feels like, from a planner's perspective coming in, that there's not that communication, right? And there's church and state. And I don't know if you've worked in an environment where that's church and state, but I feel like, listening to you, that it's very, really, it works well with you when it's not a church and state environment.
Yeah, I've worked in that as well. And this is probably one of the few places that it works the way we do. My planners, my director of conference will call me. She'll be like, Chef, remember, this is that group that, has the 10 vegans, and we got to make sure we have cauliflower steaks. And I'll be like, oh God, thank you for the reminder. Right. Or I'll call her and be like, hey, listen, FYI, X, Y, and Z is coming in. Let's make sure we have, amenities in the rooms, just to remind you. So the teamwork on our property is phenomenal.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Going back to some sustainability questions. Have you faced any challenges in maintaining the sustainability practices in your kitchen? And if so, what was a challenge that you worked through, or just said, hey, we're not going to do that anymore?
That's a great question. There's challenges in everything, right? Everything that's worth doing or worth being successful at, there's going to be challenges. And I think one of the hardest challenges we had was teaching the staff there's green waste and there's red waste, and how to separate that, and overproduction, right? And how to manage overproduction. And once you continue to do trainings, which we did, we always do 2 kitchen trainings a week. And those trainings can range from kitchen safety to production and food and allergens, right? And it's so important that you reiterate this with your staff, because we all forget things, including myself. And that's why we have
Mhm.
people, that's why training is so important. And by doing our 2 to 3 weekly meetings a week, we've really been able to nail it down on all sections. Now my staff loves it. They're like, Chef, this is for the chickens. This is for, this is for the dehydrator. So we've come a long way.
That's awesome. I
Yeah.
mean, I think that for them to be empowered like that makes them very proud of where they are and what they do.
We definitely do. We have a lot of people who want to work here, and I think we have a great staff. I think I pride myself and the team on our property being a property for development, because if you don't want to pay it forward and you don't want to teach people and develop your staff, really, what are you doing? That's my opinion, because I think it's so important. You have to empower people,
Yeah.
and we all have, I have plans, and I want to make sure that I teach my staff so that they can grow.
That's awesome. So that sounds like something that motivates you. Is there anything else that motivates you in doing this whole sustainability and locally sourced and just cooking in general?
Yeah, innovation. I think I pride myself on innovation, and I strive every single day to figure out how I can improve myself and how I can improve my property and my team and how I can continue to teach people, right? So the bees were one of my biggest accomplishment, the honeybees, and it's become not only a passion of mine, but everyone has to figure out what is their outlet outside of work, right? The gym is good, right? But the bees have become almost a sense of meditation for me. I can leave the kitchen and kind of like, okay, I'm going to tune out everything for now, and I'm going to go maintain the honeybees. And it's almost like meditation for me. So that's been one of my biggest accomplishments. And now that I've kind of established that, it's like, what's next,
Mhm.
right? What's next? And I think we have an amazing future with the chicken partnership that we did, because I really like the farmers and I like what they stand for, and I want to support them. I want to support them as they start out, and I want to
Mhm.
help them cut costs on food, and I want to keep things as organic. And so we're very excited, both of us, about the relationship we've just started.
That's awesome. And it's probably something that he didn't even expect, right? Or thought that he could have done.
No, he
Um,
didn't expect this to.
okay, so how are I mean, you're teaching your chefs, you're motivating and you're empowering your chefs to think this way. What role can chefs like you and your team help in promoting biodiversity? Because there's not a lot of chefs. I'm going to say I'm blanking, putting that blanket out there, right? That there's not a lot of chefs in the event space, the corporate space of hotels, convention centers that have the ability to do that. But and maybe I'm putting that on there and I shouldn't be, because there are a lot more out there that I don't know of. But what is the role of a chef in promoting biodiversity and environmental conservation?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think what it comes down to is just putting in extra work, and I hope no one gets offended by this, but it's our job as chefs to, right? We're a link between local. We have the ability to bring local food to our guests, right? And it's up to us to make sure we serve safe, diverse food that is really focused on, there's so many allergies out there right now, and no one wants to come to a facility where they feel like there's not enough options, or they feel embarrassed where, okay, I don't want to have to ask them to make me a special meal, right? No, it's our job to do that, right? So like, but it is, though, it is, we feed so many people now. And one thing I am going to pride our property on is our ability to adapt, right? When someone asks us for something special, we go above and beyond for them, whether it's gluten free, whether it's celiac, whether it's vegans, we have so many options for everybody. And we do it with a smile because, you're coming here and you're staying with us for a week. You don't have the luxury to go home and cook what you want. You have to rely on us to feed you, and you're our guest for a week. So we're going to take care of you. And I think that chefs do need to do a better job at that. And I'm not, I will call out just chefs in general, right? Because I think that with a little extra effort, you can do it, right? It didn't take me long to create a relationship with a farmer. It took me a little research on the computer, right? And I made a connection, and it's not hard. So I think that there can be a better job being done. I might get some backlash for that from other chefs, but it's the truth.
Well, and they could probably say, hey, I had one chef say, I don't ever leave this building. I leave this building and I go home and I sleep. So I think you're using the beehives as a way of meditation and, to get away from the stress of both of those potential things, right? It has actually added so much more to your life.
Yes.
Can I say that? Yeah.
You can. It has. I'm not going to say it hasn't, but what is life about? It's about time management and prioritizing certain things at certain times. When can I plan out my weeks at work? I'm always looking at the week and the next week, right? So I'm looking at the weather and I'm saying, okay, I'm busy. I have events Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Thursday at 3:00, I can spend an hour over there, and that's how I manage my my work calendar.
Okay. I'm going to put this up here really quickly just because it's jumping back. But Nancy put chicken partnership. She likes that. You're gonna have that chicken partnership. But all right, this is all about sustainability, so I don't want to ask this question, but I do. But staffing wise, staffing's a challenge right now. And it sounds like you have a good team, but what do you think has helped you? And I'm assuming that you have a full staff and you've got that, but managing the stress of those and all those different events and maintaining a team that loves to work together and wants to come to work.
Environment, development, and soft on people, tough on standards are three things that embody this facility, right? So I talked about development, right? I will always give priority to my current staff for a promotion. So if I have a position that is open, right, whether it be sous chef down to prep cook, right, before I even think about hiring someone else, this is my personal opinion, I will promote someone from within because I've been developing them. And that's what my staff knows. They know that each one has a development plan. We have a binder in my office, and it has every single one of my employees' name on it, from a pot washer to a sous chef. And in that book is their development plan. And when you become a new employee here, you start from the basics, from how to make salad dressings, if that's your role. And then you check in. Everyone needs to be growing, and including myself. And that's why I take beekeeping classes. That's why I just took a class on, nutrition and, dietitians, because you have to keep your brain moving, right? And I think that's how we retain our staff. And that's why our staff goes above and beyond for us, because we take care of them.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And and even if they take that knowledge and they go somewhere else, you've developed them, and they're taking the knowledge that they learned from you and expanding it somewhere else. All right, Nancy just asked a question. Where do you draw your culinary team, or do you not need that level?
So I am a culinary graduate, right? And I believe it gave me the necessary foundation, right? But I don't need to hire someone at a culinary school, because I would rather hire the attitude. We train and develop everyone. I have people who had one of my strongest cooks right now, who runs the omelet station and the action station. He was a plumber and electrician by trade not 2 years ago. And his name is Camilo. And
wow.
He's been with me for 2 years. He had zero kitchen experience, and now he's on track to become a supervisor. And I could see a huge career for him in the hospitality field. So it's all about training.
That's awesome, William. That's so cool. It reminds me of that TV commercial. I don't even know who it's for, but it's the guy who walks by and he's like taking classes online, and then he walks by a window of a restaurant. It says chef option, chef's position open, and he goes in and he gets it because he's taught himself at home. No, I love that. That's so cool. Okay, I'm gonna kind of wrap it up here in two final questions. Your next step right now in your innovation of sustainability is the chicken thing. So I was going to do you have anything beyond that you have an idea about?
So far, that's still about 5 minutes fresh.
Okay.
I need to get that down first and really grow that partnership. And then when I feel like we've gotten to a point where it's time, the wheels will start turning again. So that's first right now.
All right. No, that's very cool. Okay. Actually, I came up with another one. What is an underrated aspect of sustainable culinary practices that most kitchens should adopt, can easily adopt?
Stocks, vegetable
Say that
stock,
again?
the stocks,
Oh,
make
okay.
your own stocks.
Okay.
And I'll swing back to that because it is so underrated in the fact that they're so simple to do, but the quality you will get from making your own stocks, which go into not only soups but all your sauces, right, is night and day. It's night and day. Having a homemade vegetable stock and a homemade chicken stock and a homemade demi-glace will always be 100% better than using bases, and you'll get so much more mileage out of it, and they're not that difficult.
Okay, cool. All right, very cool. And I think you answered Nancy's question, but she said it's depending on the position on the team, where you're getting people. But I think your example of the guy who's an electrician and now a chef really kind of reiterates that. So, yeah.
And real quick, I know we have to wrap up, but I think that how we're able to keep our team so stacked and keep it full is retention and from referrals, right? Because one person who loves working here will bring 3 people, and then 3 people who love working here and say the atmosphere is amazing, they take care of me, they develop me, and I've got promoted. The proof is in the pudding, right? So if you get promoted, that's all you need. Say I started here 2 years ago and now I've worked my way up, and that's how good people bring good people.
Yep. Oh, that's so true. That's so true. All right. Hey, here's Chef's website if you want to check him out. And he's got his Instagram handle on there as well. But my final question that I ask everybody in wrapping all of this up, what does a safe, sustainable, and inclusive experience mean to you, whether you're in the IBM Learning Center or in your culinary, in your catering business?
So safe, really targeting allergens, really making sure that the food is handled properly, right? Safe food practices. So being aware of everything in that dish, right? Because more and more we hear about these situations where there's improper labeling and there's, things that aren't discussed between servers and chefs and the client, right? So safe food handling, sustainable, look for local farms to support. And even through our broad line where we do our ordering for, it'll tell you, the company we use is Ballador, and they'll tell you the farm name where you can order the lettuce from. And that's the first step if you're not directly with the farmers. So yeah, seasonal, because that's where you're going to get the most flavorful food. That's right now, asparagus, peas, all that. So, and what was the last thing? Inclusive, diversity, making that menu diverse. So and yeah, the last thing was making a diverse menu, in my opinion. So
okay. Okay, awesome. That's very cool. Yeah, sorry about that. My
Oh,
new technology powered out on me. No, I love that. And Nancy just commented, allergen, he knows who he's talking to. So, I mean, that's kind of my, like, I'm all about making sure everybody eats well and safely. So,
yeah, of course. No, it's so important.
Yeah. All right. Well, I so appreciate you being here. I'm going to say I'm so proud of you. I'm older than you. I can say that. I'm just going to say, and I so appreciate what you're doing. And you're a model for Flik and for everyone else out there. So keep doing what you're doing, and everybody check out Chef William Pfeiffer.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. All right, everybody. Next week, I'm going to be on site with a client. So I'm going to do a pre-recorded video of somebody that I interviewed at Cater Source, and it's very fun. So stay tuned for that. Actually, Lisa just said, great information. Thank you so much. And so everybody, until next time, stay safe and eat well. And William, stay on with me for 1 second afterwards. Sure. And everybody, I appreciate you being here. Thank you, Lisa, Nancy, for all your questions too. And Nancy said, thanks. It was great. All right. I'll talk to you soon.